Welcome back everybody to another episode of our weekly Moto News Update. Well, this time round we've got rumours of a new half-faired semi-retro bike from Honda, something similar on the way from Kawasaki as well, new paint for the Honda GB350, Suzuki tease a new model, we've still got our awesome giveaway with PANDO Moto, there's a brilliant looking new mini bike from CFMOTO, Honda announced more e-clutch bikes, Enfield make a new bike available to the US, Yamaha patent some new tech for the R1, CFMOTO file their own very interesting looking patent, and we'll round off with news of their new distributor after their split from KTM. But let's kick off with news that Honda could be working on a new half-faired semi-retro bike that's built upon their CB1000 Hornet platform. A couple of months back we saw the beautiful CB1000F concept, which was shown at a couple of trade shows in Japan, but these renders from WeBike, also in Japan, show a slightly more sporty take on that bike, but also with a couple of more muted and simple colour schemes. Now WeBike are saying that this could be on the market for the 2026 model year, and that the inspiration is taken from Honda's CB1000 Super 4 of 1994, and if you put them side by side, you can certainly see some similarities. Now to be honest, this is not a huge stretch of the imagination to see how a bike like this could happen. We know that retro is on the way from Honda, or at least the concept looks fairly well developed, and it's not uncommon for sporty retros like that to be offered in a faired version, or at least with a fairing accessory. Take a look at something like BMW's R12S for example, or the cafe version of Kawasaki's Z900 RS. The only thing is though, well, I don't really see any serious substantiation to these rumours beyond the renders or pictures that they've got, with no spy shots or leaks from Honda themselves, or patent applications or emissions documents or type approvals. And so this one is a bit of a wait and see. Interestingly, in the same article as well, they had some other renders of what looked like a sporty version of the CB1000 Hornet Naked that they're calling the Hornet S. Now that would be a great affordable alternative to something like a Fireblade, which now runs about 20 grand. But again, no real meat on the bones of that rumour beyond the renders, and so another one that potentially seems like a bit of a long shot. Perhaps more likely is a retro on the way from Kawasaki, which was recently reported on by Motorrad Online. You see, Kawasaki recently updated their Ninja 1000 SX to an 1100. They did the same for the Versys 1000, that's also now an 1100 inline 4. And then a couple of months back we caught news that they're working on a naked on this platform called the Z1100, a model name which has appeared in some documentation, and clearly that would be a direct competitor for that Honda CB1000 Hornet. Thing is though, on top of that, Motorrad claimed that this week a model code of ZRT10GT has also appeared in some US documentation, which points towards a retro also on that same platform. Why? Well, the Zephyr 1100 and the ZRX 1100s were coded ZRT10 A, B and C, and then the ZRX 1200s were coded ZRT20 A and V, and so it would be a real change of format or consistency or plan for them to do something substantially different from that model code. So yeah, I'm really hoping an 1100's on the way that looks somewhere near as good as the ZRX is. The GT bit on the end though, well that's a little bit of a head scratcher. I doubt it's going to be any sort of touring motorcycle, but maybe a reference to their GT line of bikes like the 550 and 750, which could offer some visual inspiration as well. For me, the ZRXs, the GTs are some of the coolest looking bikes they've ever made, and so if they do something that looks even nearly as good, I think it will be absolutely brilliant. Over at Honda again though, they've just announced new paint for their GB350 Retro, and while it looks like this one might be for Asia only as we only get the S version here, well I thought I'd include it anyway because it just looks so good. One of my few criticisms of the GB350S that we get here is that it isn't particularly, daring in terms of the finish, with a black version, a grey version, and then a blue version which looks really quite similar to the grey, and so it doesn't really seem that worthwhile offering both of them. I wish they'd just given one more exciting option, even if they had to charge an extra £100 or something. And if it looked anything like this, I think it would be a very good thing. This new finish for the non-S GB350 gets a bit of a two-tone finish on the tank with the blue and white. A nice little bit of detail there with the pinstripe down the middle, and then you've got colour matched side panels and a brown saddle just to give it that retro feel. And personally, I think it all works together really quite nicely. This one, again, was on WeBike Japan, and hats off to them for doing their research because they traced this finish back to the CB400 SS of 2001, so there is a little bit of heritage there as well. Retro seems to be the theme of the week though for me, because Suzuki have also just published a teaser on their website which hints at a new model announcement that's coming this Friday. Now naturally on Friday we'll follow up with all the details as soon as we get hold of them, so do hit subscribe if you've not already if you want to catch that as soon as it goes up. But for now, all we've got is this picture and the caption that says to save the day. Now, being an 8-ball, almost certainly it's based upon their 800 platform, so the same as the GSX 8S Naked, the GSX 8R sports bike, the V-Strom 800s, and so of course, everybody's kind of speculating as to what it could be. One theory is that there are two touring bikes on the way, with a couple of model names recently leaked in some documentation, which were GSX 8T and GSX 8TT, but I think this 8-ball in the image on the pool table hints much more at a retro bike than it does a touring bike, where typically in the marketing they're going to show you travel and long distances and exotic locations. So look, either they do have some tourers in the works as well that are going to use the 8T and 8TT model names, and we'll find out about those later. Potentially, you know, good competitors for the Tracer 7 or Tiger Sport 660, and then they'll come up with something else on Friday that's in the sort of potentially retro market, or that's my feel anyway based on that picture. Or we've got it completely wrong and the 8T and 8TT are not touring bikes but in fact retros, and I guess maybe 8T would be like a naked retro and 8TT could be a bit more sporty with the half fairing or something like that. Well, we haven't got long to find out, so it's probably not worth speculating too hard, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. Now, before we get onto the next story, a quick reminder that our brilliant giveaway with PANDO Moto is still open, along with their very generous discount codes. PANDO make a beautiful range of riding gear with a real emphasis on style, but still with plenty of technical features and safety measures to make them totally practical and safe to ride in too. Recently, I've been wearing their Capo riding shirt and their Arnie blue jeans, but I've also been riding in their stuff for years, and so I can definitely vouch for the quality and comfort as well as the way it looks, and so this really is a very good opportunity to get your own full outfit. You see, they're offering for the winner a top or jacket of your choice in your size, a pair of jeans or trousers in your size and choice, and to top it off, a pair of gloves from their lineup, and they do have a nice selection of different colours there and a couple of styles too. Still though, if you don't win, there is a 10% discount code that's going to run for the duration of this competition, and you'll find that down in the description below along with the link to enter. But also, if you fill out the form, you'll get automatically emailed with a 15% discount code, and so you may as well. Best case scenario, you win a full outfit. Worst case, you get an even better discount code. I will add with this one as well, it's open worldwide, and not only do they have a great range of men's gear, but also plenty of women's riding gear too, and so it's truly open to everyone. So once again, a massive thanks to PANDO Moto for putting up this brilliant prize, and also for supporting the channel. And with that, on to the next story. Now, one of my favourite looking mini bikes ever, I reckon, is the CFMOTO PAPIO, which came out a couple of years back, and ever since, I've really wanted one. It's basically like a Honda Grom kind of vibe, but mixed with 80s or 90s sports bike styling, and I think it looks just brilliant, although unfortunately I think it's only been available in Asia and the US, and I don't think it's ever been sold in the UK and Europe. Thing is though, an even better looking version seems to be on the way, with Cycle World reporting on this one, of which they've got the picture, but also the type approval filings, which show that it's definitely on the way. I'm absolutely loving that kind of beige and orange orange paint job. The full fairing suits it really nicely as well, and they also say there could be some technical updates with TCS written on the front mudguard, which suggests they've added traction control, and so maybe there's some other tweaks to the electronics and rider aids. Sadly though, as with most new sports bikes, they couldn't resist slapping some AERO winglets on the side, albeit fairly small ones, but all the same, I don't think they're going to be generating much downforce given that this bike has a top speed of 56 miles per hour. Back over at Visor Down, they're reporting this week that Honda are rolling out their e-clutch system to more and more bikes with the CL250 Scrambler and the Rebel 250. Now both, I believe, are Asia only, but perhaps it signifies a direction of travel of rolling this tech out on more and more beginner-friendly bikes, which does make perfect sense. Mastering clutch control is probably one of the more tricky parts of learning to ride a bike, and so e-clutch would make total sense for newer riders, but at the moment in the UK, for example, it's only available on their CB650R Naked and the CBR650R Sports Bike, neither of which I'd say are particularly aimed, specifically anyway, at newer riders. So yeah, perhaps we'll see it trickling down to more and more bikes in the smaller capacity stuff, which to me seems like a smart move on their part. Over on topspeed.com, we've got news that one of Enfield's most blinged out models, the GOAN Classic, is about to be made available in the US. I think up until now this one's been India only, and it basically takes the classic 350, which is very traditional in its looks, and gives it the GOAN treatment with a bit of the character of that region. With more vivid paint jobs, you've got the white sidewalls on the tyres as well, and also some big, tall ape hanger style bars. Personally, I really like this one. It's a bit of a change of direction for Enfield, although there isn't any word on whether this will ever be available in the UK. Now, this next story from Cycle World shows a patent for new aerodynamic tech on Yamaha's R1 sports bike, and that is interesting to me for a couple of reasons. I mean, firstly, the idea itself looks quite interesting, with a pair of shutters on either side of the bike that can either open and close to prioritize potentially aerodynamic efficiency or cooling. You see, closed, they divert the airflow around the bike, and that should help with quicker acceleration and higher top speeds. But then open, they as usual just let the air pass through the radiators, and so you'll get better cooling, although you will sacrifice the aerodynamic efficiency by getting a bit more drag. So yeah, I guess down the straights, you might be willing to close them just to maximize your top speed, or if the engine's getting a bit hot, it I guess will open them up and make sure it stays cool. And it does say, I believe in the patent, that this can happen kind of momentarily. So let's say you're driving out of a corner with maximum acceleration, it could just close them for a few seconds to, take a little bit of a hit in terms of cooling, just to get up to speed as quickly as possible. Very interesting stuff, but what I'm also thinking about it is, well, what does this mean for the future of the R1? Recently it was discontinued in the UK and Europe because of increasingly strict emissions regulations, and then also we've got the R9 now, which kind of replaces it, but also kind of doesn't because it's much lower in terms of peak power. Then we've got Yamaha, being quite open about the fact they're working on a new V4 engine to compete in MotoGP with the likes of Ducati, and you never know, that could trickle down to a road bike. And so yeah, is this patent an indication that they're working on a successor to the R1, or still working on the R1 with the intention of bringing it back? Or are they just purely using it as an example bike in the drawings, to protect a piece of intellectual property that they might want to use at some point later down the line? Let me know what you think in the comments. I also really like the look of this patent this week, which came from Australian MCN, which was filed by CFMOTO for what looks like a variable riding position. Basically, what you've got is a set of handlebars and foot pegs that are on electronic actuators as well. And the idea is they can go between a more aggressive and sporty riding position with low bars and pegs that are backing up. But then immediately, without having to get off the bike, I guess you could just hit a button and the pegs will drop, the bars will come up, and then you're sat up more comfortable and, relaxed. To anyone who's done hours on the motorway on a sports bike, it probably sounds like a fairly decent idea. And to be fair, you can customize pretty much anything else about a bike purely through the switchgear and dash. I mean, you can change the windscreen height, you can change riding modes, you can change suspension response with electronic suspension. With the latest R1300 RT from BMW, you can even change the geometry. It can lengthen the shock and get it up on its nose for more sporty handling, or you can sit it down at the back and it becomes more stable and chilled out and easygoing. So I don't see any reason why you couldn't do this, but is it something you'd go for, or is it just another unnecessary complication of motorcycling? Let me know in the comments. Speaking of CFMOTO, well, since KTM's well-documented financial difficulties, they have started to distance themselves a little bit. And so while they do still manufacture the 790 bikes, I think, out in China, well, they did a couple of months back announce that at least in the UK, in terms of distribution, they'd be going separate. We've been waiting to see who that might be, but Visor Down report this week that it'll be QUADZILLA, not the German track cyclist with the massive legs, but a UK company who import quad bikes and ATVs and those sorts of things. Naturally, one of the suppliers of those is CFMOTO, and so I guess it makes some kind of logical sense for them just to add motorcycles to their existing portfolio. And so it's good news, I guess, for anyone who is waiting for a CFMOTO bike this summer. In fact, they say the 450 MTs are expected to start making their way to customers from August. As always, though, I'd love to know what you think of the stories this week, so do let me know down in the comments. And if you've missed any of our other videos this week, then I'll put a playlist on the screen now so you can catch up. We've got some mistakes to avoid with action cameras, a guide to buying the right kind of motorcycle for you, and also a walk around of ABR Festival, which I really enjoyed shooting, and so do check that out if you want to get a bit of a vibe of the event. Do hit subscribe as well for more of the latest motorcycle news and reviews right here on MOTOBOB. A massive thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next video.